The letter you are about to hear is a work of fiction. All names, events, and circumstances are entirely imaginary and created for narrative and artistic purposes. This story does not depict or promote violence, crime, or punishment. It is a reflection on the human experience, memory, love, and the acceptance of death. This letter is for me. That feels strange to say out loud. I have spent most of my life speaking away from myself, explaining, defending, justifying. There was always someone else I was answering to, someone else I was trying to convince. But there is no one left to convince now, only me. So I will speak plainly. I used to believe that if I ever slowed down long enough, everything I avoided would catch up to me at once, that I would be crushed under the weight of it. That fear kept me moving. It kept me distracted. It kept me loud. What I did not understand was that avoidance takes more energy than honesty, and exhaustion eventually removes all hiding places. Here there is nothing to outrun, no momentum to borrow, no future version of myself to promise improvement. There is only the person I became and the person I thought I was becoming. They are not the same, and for a long time I treated that difference like a crime. I accused myself endlessly, not in productive ways, not in ways that led anywhere. I replayed moments until they lost all meaning. I turned mistakes into identities. I confused responsibility with punishment. That kind of self-judgment feels honest, but it is often just cruelty wearing discipline's clothing. I am not writing this to absolve myself. Some choices do not deserve forgiveness. They deserve understanding. There is a difference. Forgiveness tries to erase. Understanding tries to see clearly. I am no longer interested in erasing anything. I see now how often I mistook urgency for purpose, how often I chose motion over direction. I wanted to be seen as capable, as strong, as someone who knew where they were going. What I actually was afraid of standing still long enough to admit I did not know. I spent years believing that clarity would arrive first and courage would follow. It never works that way. Courage comes first. Clarity arrives later, quietly, once the noise has burned itself out. I am only clear now because there is nothing left to protect. This place strips a person down, not violently, not dramatically, just thoroughly. It removes performance, it removes explanation, it removes the future as a bargaining chip. What remains is not shame. What remains is accuracy. I am accurate with myself now. I see where I chose comfort over honesty, where I chose silence over repair, where I waited too long for certainty and mistook that waiting for wisdom. I also see where I survived things that shaped me before I had language for them. That context does not excuse harm, but it explains how it became possible. I am finished punishing myself. Punishment implies there is still something to earn, some version of myself that might emerge if the suffering is severe enough. There is no other version coming. There is only the one who is here now, and this one deserves honesty, not cruelty. If I could speak to the person I used to be, I would not warn them. Warnings rarely change anything. I would tell them this: pay attention sooner, not to outcomes, not to appearances, but to discomfort. Discomfort is where truth begins its work. I used to believe acceptance meant approval, that if I accepted who I was, I would be endorsing everything I had done. That belief kept me stuck. Acceptance is not approval, it is the end of resistance. And resistance is what kept me trapped far longer than circumstance ever did. I am not afraid now, not because I am resolved, not because I am at peace in the way people imagine peace. I am not afraid because fear requires alternatives, and there are none left to negotiate with. This ending is fixed. What I can choose is how honestly I meet it. I meet it without argument, without story, without asking it to be different. I am tired of bargaining with reality. Reality has already answered every question. This letter is not a reconciliation. It is not a confession. It is a recognition. I recognize the limits I lived within. I recognize the harm I caused. I recognize the moments I failed to become who I believed I should be. And I release myself from the fantasy that endless self-punishment equals accountability. Accountability is quieter than that. It is simply telling the truth and letting it stand without decoration. This is the truth. I did the best I could with what I understood at the time, and when my understanding was insufficient, the consequences were real. Both things can exist together. I am done asking myself to be more than human. I am done rewriting my past to make it easier to carry. I will carry it accurately now. That feels lighter now. There is a stillness that comes when nothing remains unresolved within you, not because everything was fixed, but because nothing is being avoided. That is where I am now. This letter does not need an answer. It does not need to be reread. It exists only to mark the moment when I stopped running from myself and stood still long enough to see who I actually was. That is enough.